Well, and I believe that Caleb Love is turning the corner. He's shooting the basketball much better as his field goal percentage comes up. But the important thing for Caleb Love is to be able to handle the basketball. 4 turnovers in the first matchup versus NC State in 28 minutes. 3 turnovers against Wake Forest on Wednesday. So he's going to have to keep that number down to make sure his team gets a great opportunity each time down the floor.
And we are underway. A win today for NC State would give the Wolfpack its first season sweep against North Carolina, Corey, in 18 years. It's never happened on Roy Williams' watch.
And Roy Williams has been very adamant about the fact that he does not want that to happen. So, again, this is not just another game for Roy Williams, and he's hoping that his team reflects that in their energy. And Caleb Love gets off to a great start getting to the basket for an easy one. And we've seen Caleb Love do that on a number of games and had 2 turnovers to start off the Wake Forest game. However, calmed it down, only had 3 for the entire game.
3 at the other end for NC State. You see the Wolfpack starters. Carolina starting the same 5 as it has in recent weeks. The one big name that we're not sure if we're going to see, and if we do, how much we will see, is Manny Bates, the terrific shot-blocking center for NC State, who, Corey, was so good in the first meeting in Raleigh.
Yeah, Manny Bates blocked 5 shots in that game, but also was effective on the offensive end, 7 for 11 field goals, and put a tremendous amount of pressure on this dominant front line for the North Carolina Tar Heels. As we see Garrison Brooks get an easy basket, and North Carolina has the advantage in the post area. Garrison Brooks getting that one, but we also saw Jericho Helms knock down a 3-pointer earlier for NC State's only basket of this game, and that's where the difference is. The style of play where North Carolina plays 2 bigs, more traditional style, NC State plays a 4-out, 1-in, and Helms can be a matchup problem for the big guys in white.
Drive to the bucket. Thomas Allen getting the start tonight, and off the turnover, a chance for 3 more. Here comes Leaky Black the other way.
They're dodging a bullet on that possession. A wide open look for Allen, who's led NC State in their last 2 games in scoring. But we also have to mention that this is the first game in 10 days for the Wolfpack, who are on COVID pause as Kevin Keats shows off his ball handling skills on the sideline as Allen gets to the rim, is able to make the layup, but then an immediate turnover gave Allen a wide open 3 in the corner. He was unable to knock down, but 16 points for him, 4 for 5, was really the only bright spot for the Wolfpack when they made the trip to Tallahassee against the Noles.
And Allen's been terrific coming off the bench the last 2 games, 4 for 5 from beyond the arc in both those 2 games, Corey, yet they have him back in the starting lineup here this afternoon.
See the emphasis of North Carolina to go inside. Armando Bacot, who's coming off an 18-point performance on Wednesday night against Wake Forest. And getting the basketball inside early and often is going to be a point of emphasis for Roy Williams' teams, especially when you consider you want to try to see if you can get Funderburk in foul trouble. And we're not certain if we're going to see Manny Bates in this game, dealing with the ankle sprain. And we're not sure if we'll see Bates in this one. He missed the Florida State game, even though they had 10 days off. Kevin Keats uncertain yesterday when we talked to him on Zoom if Bates would be able to participate in this game or not.
Here's Devon Daniels. Draws 2 defenders, gives it to Helms, who is fouled. What do the Wolfpack need out of Devon Daniels each night, Corey?
Well, Devon Daniels gives them, one, he's a very good rebounder, but he's also their leading assist man. So when you think about it, he not only scores, but he has to make plays for his teammates. But he is the leader of this team. Devon Daniels, a 5th-year senior who transferred to NC State. And when you look at Devon Daniels and having to play, of course, with Shaquille Moore, the freshman, Cam Hayes, the freshman, Devon Daniels really is the guy with the majority of the experience for NC State in the backcourt.
And he averages 15.7 points per game, tops for NC State, 12th in the ACC at this point this year. And Coach Keats says that Daniels really started to turn that corner for him mid-season last year when he started being much more aggressive, kind of take no prisoners and go into attack mode, not settling all the time around the perimeter. Shot clock violation gives it back to North Carolina.
And Braxton Beverly, who Coach Keats talked to us about as well, who's been battling a number of injuries, but he loves Braxton Beverly and the warrior mentality for him getting out on the court. And we look at Kevin Keats in his 4th season at NC State, and he's won on this court in Chapel Hill. His first year came in and got a big win, but North Carolina's won the last 2 in this building. But, you know, not every coach can say that they were able to come in their debut at Chapel Hill, walk away with the win.
Kerwin Walton off the mark on his first shot. Braxton Beverly quickly up ahead. Allen lays it in.
Transition defense, when you think about it's the way that North Carolina runs offensively, you would imagine that they should never have a problem getting back on defense because they practice it so much.
Armando Bacot with his first 2. The Tar Heels' leading scorer on the year makes it 7-6 State.
And right now, North Carolina averaging almost 18 points a game on second chance points and ahead of their national championship pace in 2016-2017, and which would be the most for North Carolina ever if they keep the 17.9 pace alive.
Bacot with the left hand. This is Braxton Beverly, who his coach Kevin Keats said yesterday affectionately thinks he's going on 36 years of age.
Well,
dealing with an ankle.
He's played a lot of basketball, and when you play a lot of basketballs, you deal with a lot of injuries. I can attest to that firsthand account. As NC State comes up with the offensive board, but trying to get it over that front line of North Carolina as Armando Bacot comes up with the big block shot. And because of his efforts, 4 points already for Bacot. He gets a bit of a breather as Sharpe checks into the game. And there's no breather for NC State when you consider you go out with Bacot and Sharpe comes in. No drop-off between these 2 dominant North Carolina big men.
And Manny Bates has come in, replacing Jericho Helms 4 minutes in. And again, Manny Bates missed the Florida State game with an ankle injury. That was 10 days ago, the last time State played. And we'll see how much he can go. He only went for 30 minutes in practice yesterday, and that's the first time he's practiced in almost 2 weeks.
But one of the areas, and when you look at NC State right now, playing the 2 bigs together, and Funderburk is skilled enough to be a 4, so it's not an issue offensively, but it has a lot more to do with trying to keep North Carolina off of that offensive glass. Kevin Keats said himself, their best offense is once they miss a shot.
Caleb Love with a wild bank shot. He's got 4. The lead is 3.
But you can watch Caleb Love play, Doug, and see that he's playing with so much more confidence as of late as we could compare to what we saw from him earlier in the season. Getting the job done defensively. Great defensive stand there by Caleb Love. As NC State now only has 10 seconds to try to get a quality look.
Tough runner by Daniels. Harrison Brooks feeds the post to Sharpe. Quick move. No, and that was over Manny Bates, out of bounds off of the Tar Heels. So the Wolfpack will have it when we come back.
A great action early for both teams. NC State getting out in transition, an easy bucket.
Well, Joe Lunardi this morning calls this game, quote, an enormous ACC bubble matchup, saying the Tar Heels will have a hard time staying in the field of 68 with a loss this afternoon. But one thing we can expect, Corey, is this is going to be a close game based on the way the Heels have been going this year.
Yeah, this is the first time that North Carolina has played 7 consecutive games where it's been decided by 7 points or less. And considering that they're all ACC games, Roy Williams still dealing with a very young team, trying to figure out the best rotation, the best way for this group to play. And he says that they still need to make some strides defensively, but he has to be happy with the start here, the 1-point lead. More importantly, very few turnovers, only 1 turnover to their credit.
We've yet to see R.J. Davis or Andrew Platek come into the game to play in the backcourt for Carolina. Same starting lineup again for UNC this afternoon. Step back by Cam Hayes, a good-looking freshman for State, off the mark. Up by a point, Carolina with the basketball.
Yeah, Doug, one of the things that really isn't talked about as much when you hear you know, everyone talks about North Carolina and their freshmen, and Devon Sharpe, of course, right on cue, you should be talking about. But Kevin Keats actually has 5 freshmen in his lineup as well, and was starting a freshman backcourt in their last game out against Florida State. And people don't necessarily talk about the youth of this of this NC State team, but he's playing a number of young guys as well. Has some veterans to go along with it, but still some growing pains for the Wolfpack.
Turning defense into offense. Boy, I tell you what, is Caleb Love now has 6 points, Corey. I love what I've seen out of the Tar Heels at the defensive end so far.
Well, they've done the job defensively, and it seems as though early in this game, the Tar Heels have gotten the message from Roy Williams that this is not just another game. And when you look at it, it's a 10-2 run right now for the Tar Heels. But Roy Williams made it very clear, NC State is a rival. And, you know, and you mentioned to me before the game that anyone under the age of 40 probably doesn't recognize how significant this rivalry is. But those of us who have been around the game long enough, you understand how big of a rivalry the NC State-North Carolina rivalry is.
As you and I were talking about before the broadcast, late 60s, early 70s, when Roy was an undergrad, he played on the JV team as a freshman and then worked on the staff as a student assistant under Dean Smith for 3 years. It was State that was UNC's big rival.
It was, Doug, and when you look back at the series history between these two schools, and you talk about at that time, that was also when NC State went back-to-back undefeated teams, 1973, and then winning a national championship in 1974. But this is the 240th meeting all time. North Carolina has won twice as many games as has NC State in this rivalry. But when you think about to the last one, you know, everybody only talks about your last game is the only one that matters. And it was the Wolfpack coming up with a big win on their home court on December 22nd.
Daniels with a nice turnaround. R.J. Davis now into the game for Carolina with play tech, whose pass is deflected out of bounds by the freshman Shaquille Moore. Carolina will keep.
Doug, when I watch this game, I look at the first-year guards as Shaquille Moore checks out. But you've got Shaquille Moore and Cam Hayes for NC State. Then you've got R.J. Davis and Caleb Love playing together before Playtech came in. And that's something that hasn't happened much. But I watched these 4 guys go at it over in Winston-Salem at the CP3 Elite Point Guard Academy as Funderburk is able to finish up the missed attempts. But when you think about these two teams and these freshman point guards going at it, hopefully this is something we can see moving forward for a while.
Bacot answers the follow slam from Bates. 16-13 North Carolina. And Bacot off to a quick start. You see 6 points today. At 11.6 points per game, Corey, he leads Carolina in scoring, and not since the 1946-47 season, when Dr. Jim Hamilton led the Tar Heels at 11.4 points per game, has a UNC team had its leading scorer under 12 points per game.
Well, under 12 points per game because UNC not scoring nearly what they're used to, but Armando Bacot getting off to a great start in this one. And, you know, Armando's heard all the talk about Manny Bates and all the talk about Funderburk and how good the front line is, and he's coming out today showing that he's just good or better than everyone on the front line, and he took that game personally. I actually spoke with him after the NC State loss, and he took that game personally, and he's come out showing that it's personal for him trying to get a win today.
Devon Daniels ties the game at 18. Sharpe, maybe the best passer on this Carolina team, feeds the post. It comes to Bacot, and just like that, Corey, he's got double figures.
Yeah, he's got half of North Carolina's points already. 10 points for Armando Bacot on the interior. And when you look at now NC State going back to just the one big with Bates on the floor, Funderburk checking out, it's going to be difficult to try to defend North Carolina in the painted area, but Devon Daniels knocking down another mid-range jumper, trying to keep his team at bay.
Let's see if they go to Bacot again. Pat posting up Bates. Instead, Sharpe connects from 16 feet.
Devon Sharpe may be the most dangerous of all the interior players, and that's saying a lot because Bacot is special as well. But Devon Sharpe and his motor are on a different level. Roy Williams talks about his ability to rebound the basketball, where North Carolina is so special. If he's able to consistently knock down the 15 to 20-foot jump shot, he becomes even more dangerous.
And Corey, don't forget about Garrison Brooks, who put 30 on NC State here at the Dean Dome a year ago. Bates gets the block shot. It's a held ball. And that takes us to our under 12 media timeout.
NC State turning defense into offense. Great hustle by Devon Daniels as Helms is able to get out in transition. Doesn't finish, but Bates is there to clean it up.
Xander, he came into this game making 64% of his shots from the floor. That number's only going up today.
And, I was happy to see Armando, the first person on the floor today, warming up, bringing his shoes out, not wearing his shoes on the floor, but bringing them out, then lacing them up, kind of getting a feel for this home gym of Chapel Hill, and he's made himself at home early in this game. Coming out to a great start, went 8 for 11 on Wednesday night versus Wake Forest on the field, and 5 for 6 right now. So you have to say he's shooting the ball very well. But Roy Williams says that when Armando keeps it simple, he's very effective. It's when he starts to doing too much spinning, too much showing off his fancy footwork, where he often gets himself in trouble.
Yeah, he finishes that thought, Coach Williams, by saying, just shoot the dang ball.
That's not something I ever heard from a coach, by the way, Doug.
No, I don't imagine, including Coach Williams. Walker Kessler in the game and on the score sheet.
But another offensive rebound. When you think about North Carolina, and Kevin Keats said it best, oftentimes their best offense comes after a missed shot. When you think about Bacot, Garrison Brooks, Devon Sharpe, Walker Kessler, they are going to have a size advantage at most times on the glass, and they're turning it into normally about 18 second chance points per game, as Devon Daniels has to make a great individual move over a strong defender, Garrison Brooks, to get an easy 2. Well, I shouldn't say easy, but to get the 2 for NC State.
Yeah, Wolfpack picking it up from the floor. Now 6 of its last 8. 2-point ball game, just over 8 minutes remaining in the half. Caleb Love finds some space and buries the pull-up.
But Caleb Love is playing. You can see the confidence growing in him. And Roy Williams hasn't played he and R.J. Davis as much together. But right now, both those guys on the floor alongside Anthony Harris, who's just returning in the Florida State game. And Harris gives them an element, especially on the defensive end, that they've been lacking, but also a playmaker. Came in and making plays for himself and teammates in that Florida State game and earning himself more and more minutes for Coach Williams.
Yeah, Harris has been used in short bursts the last 2 games since coming back from the knee injury. 8 minutes and then 6 minutes. Don't expect him to get extended run today, but he is a valuable piece for Roy Williams. Daniels turns the corner again.
That one, North Carolina concerned, it may have been on the rim, but very few whistles, only 2 fouls called in this game thus far. So you got to like the pace, and both these coaches want to see a score in the 80s. Well, preferably they could keep their team, the opponent, under 80, but they would love to see their team scoring 80s, knowing they find success around that number.
Love finds Harris, and he connects.
And Harris can do that as well. He has the ability to stretch the floor. And Harris, who's missed the majority of his last 2 seasons, tore his ACL during his senior year of high school, and then played in 5 games last season, and then tore the opposite leg, the ACL on the opposite leg. So, and Harris has missed a lot of time, but right now he is giving Carolina a big lift, and especially knocking down the 3 off the bench. But Caleb Love trying to get into class with Armando Bacot. Right now, it's been those 2 Hills getting off to a great offensive start.
Duke and Louisville at 4 Eastern. Then LSU, second in the SEC, taking on Kentucky. The Wildcats looking to turn things around still. Both games are on ESPN and the app. And Corey, this is the first time since 1995 Duke is absent from Joe Lunardi's bracketology.
I can remember that team in '95. That was the year that Coach K actually had to take a leave of absence due to a medical issue and missed really 2/3 of the season at the end. It was a struggle for Duke that year, but different this year because the freshmen for Duke are good, but they're not the same freshmen that they're used to having over the past few years that have allowed them to be elite. And they also don't have the veteran presence to help them over the hump. Jordan Goldwire, who is a veteran, and Wendell Moore Jr. and Matthew Hurt, sophomores, have not really been able to influence those younger guys and helping them lead them to victories right now. And you look at the bracketology, the ACC with only 6 schools in, but there are a number of teams floating around the first 4 out. Pittsburgh, who is playing much better basketball. Jeff Capel has his group playing well after their COVID pause. And then Duke and Syracuse in that next 4 out. And when you look at it right now, and you know, and Doug, early in the season, the ACC was still, and everybody talked about it being a down year, the ACC was still considered to have possibly 9 to 10 teams getting into the tournament. So this is different from what we were expecting early in the year.
Well, Corey, with 50 days until Selection Sunday, who of those ACC teams who Joey Brackets has on the outside looking in, who of those do you think is most likely to work its way into the field of 68?
Well, I can tell you, I had Syracuse on Tuesday, and the way they shot the basketball, they look like a team that could definitely get in the mix. And then a win for them today, a big win over Virginia Tech, definitely helps. They've got Virginia coming in Monday, and so another opportunity to take on a ranked opponent. But, one thing that's hurting the ACC is the fact that even your big wins aren't as big because the teams aren't ranked as high. And so that is playing against us, something that we've never really seen in the ACC, but this has been an unprecedented year, no question about it.
State with the basketball, down 3, just over 5 minutes remaining in the half. Thomas Allen picks up his dribble.
I'm sure you're shocked that I said Syracuse on that one.
I appreciate that, mentioning the big 78-60 win over Virginia Tech at the Dome this afternoon.
By the way, I think Duke will get in as well. So,
well, Jalen Johnson, it looks like he's getting back to it,
He does, and Armando Bacot looks like he's picking up where he left off before he took a break and went to the bench, knocking down the jumper right now. We saw Armando working on that in the pregame. Looking at the pass into the post, no one there, or playing off of him and daring him to take that jumper, and there he steps up and knocks it down. And a young man who can shoot the basketball. You haven't seen much of it at North Carolina because he plays so much with his back to the basket, but has a nice touch from beyond, from stepping away from the basket.
Team rebound back to the Wolfpack. I mentioned earlier, Bacot came into this game shooting 64% from the floor. That would be good enough for second in the league behind Notre Dame's Nate Laszewski, but he is only averaging about 4.3 makes per game. To qualify for that stat, you've got to make 5 per game, and well, if the rate he's going, he might get there today.
That may be the most disappointing stat I've heard all year long. You're talking about a young man who I've worked with since the 7th grade, and he's not taking enough shots. That's a problem.
I'm sure you'll talk to him about it.
Oh, I already have. Please believe we've got a text thread talking about that all the time. Is Braxton Beverly, and Coach Keats happy to see him back in action and knocking down the 3. He has shot 55% from 3 against North Carolina in 7 games throughout his career, and gets off to a great start from beyond the arc in this.
Funderburg's got to step up for NC State because he's the one guy that can compete on the backboards.
We'll see you on the Jeep halftime report in a bit.
Day'Ron Sharpe. 35-31 North Carolina with a lead. 3.5 minutes remaining in the first. Braxton Beverly driving dish.
Yeah, we didn't get to hear a whole lot of what was going on in the studio, but I did hear LaFonso Ellis talking about Armando Bacot's performance thus far in the first half. And, of course, Fonz is always cheering on the bigs as Day'Ron Sharpe gives Fonz a little more to cheer about on the follow-up. But, when you think about it, Armando Bacot, Day'Ron Sharpe, you're talking about 2 young men who most likely will be playing in the NBA relatively soon. But they are traditional bigs in this North Carolina system. Both have made a jump shot in this game, Doug, but you don't see a lot of that from North Carolina's bigs. They do the majority of their damage at the rim, and Roy Williams preaches to his team to make hard plays look easy. Keep it simple. He talked about Hank Aaron, and why Hank Aaron was one of his favorites is because he made hard plays look easy. And this is a hard play, but it looks easy to Devon Sharpe simply because he has more effort, more energy going after the basketball on that offensive board than did his opponent.
Sharpe with 8 points, 4 rebounds coming off the bench today. He and the Tar Heels up by 6.
And Doug, we got to mention
go ahead. Excuse me, Corey.
North Carolina shooting 54.5% from the field right now. NC State is allowing opponents in ACC play to shoot over 50%. So when the Wolfpack are unable to turn teams over, they struggle defending in the half court. And right now, North Carolina is firing on all cylinders, now up to 55.9% from the field.
Yeah, that number you said about field goal defense, next to last in the ACC for the Wolfpack. Wolfpack turnover. And Kevin Keats, watching what was a tight game for the first 15, 16 minutes, get a little separation here.
But only 3 turnovers for North Carolina thus far in the first 18 minutes of this game. And you compare that to 18 total turnovers where they trailed by 17. And North Carolina has only had a halftime lead 4 games this season. So they're used to trailing at the half and having to come back. They've been outscored by 29 points on the season in first halves of games combined this year. So going to be a little different for Roy Williams in his halftime speech, talking to his team about what they need to do in the second half going into the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, Roy Williams has never had a team at Carolina that finished the season with more turnovers like that one than assists, but this team is on that pace right now.
Well, the 3rd turnover of the game, and you see how frustrating that is to Roy Williams. However, you know, and he'll never be comfortable, but he's feeling much better about things right now with the 8-point lead with 1:54 remaining than he would be otherwise.
Shaquille Moore off the mark. Another rebound for Armando Bacot. Walton feeds the post. Bacot faces up and now goes to work. Blocked by Bates. Out of bounds. Carolina will keep.
Manny Bates is a special defender. When you consider averaging 3 blocks a game, one of the tops in the NCAA and leads the ACC right now. But he is the 3rd fastest player to 100 block shots as far as games in the ACC since 1985-86. Would you happen to know who those other 2 guys would be?
Top of my head, no.
I am surprised at you, Dougie Fresh. Well, one is simple. I mean, one is pretty easy. I mean, if you think ACC shot blocks over the last 30 years, you got to think Tim Duncan. Let's start there. Yeah. But then Alvin Jones at Georgia Tech actually was 2nd fastest to get to 100 block shots. So Manny Bates putting himself in some great company along the shot block leaders in ACC history.
And, you know, Manny's on pace to wind up alongside Thurl Bailey and B.J. Anya as the greatest shot blockers in program history.
But right now, North Carolina trying to bring Manny away from the basket on the defensive end. Offensively, he continues to excel catching the basketball. But right there, Devon Sharpe with an opportunity to post up against Jericho Helms, who he'll have the size advantage over. Manny Bates not able to get over in time to block that shot. So it's a good bucket and opportunity for the and one for Devon Sharpe.
Carolina on a 10-2 run. State calls timeout. We'll take a break and be back to the Dean Dome in 30 seconds. With Miami and Wake Forest, followed by Florida State, Georgia Tech, then number 13 Virginia and number 16 Virginia Tech, and finally it's Pitt hosting Notre Dame. Don't have ACC Network? Well, go to getaccn.com for instant access. With Corey Alexander, I'm Doug Sherman. Glad you're with us for the final seconds of this first half between State and Carolina in what's been a cleanly played first half. We've not heard much at all from the officials. Roger Ayers, Pat Driscoll, Tony Henderson. Only 6 combined fouls, now 7 combined fouls in this half, Corey.
Great defensive effort there by Caleb Love, rotating out to Helms and then moving his feet, switching on to Shaquille Moore, taking that offensive foul. And right now, Caleb Love, I mean, you can see, just his energy is different. You start making shots, it changes everything about you. And right now, Caleb Love putting together a great first half for North Carolina, along with Bacot and Devon Sharpe. They've had their way on the offensive end of the floor, and it's creeping over into their defense as well.
Shot clock off. Tar Heels holding for a final shot. Pass deflected away, goes out of bounds. Wolfpack basketball.
My fault, Caleb. That's on me. I'll take that turnover. I talked too great about how he's been playing. That's on me. I'll take that one. We'll call that announcer's jinx. But right now, 6.3 seconds, and Roy Williams won't be as upset about that turnover if they're able to get a stop.
Beverly with a foul to give. Carolina gives it with 2 seconds to go. So just the 3rd team foul against the Tar Heels. Do you expect another one here on this inbounds?
I do not, because one thing you don't want to do is continue to add up fouls, especially on guys like Garrison Brooks. You never know how this thing turns out. It may be a close game at the end, and you don't want to continue to add fouls to his tab.
Daniels. Tough shot at the buzzer. Doesn't go. Armando Bacot heads to the locker room with the Tar Heels up by 10.
Had their way, both guys with matching 6 for 8 from the field right now for 12 points and shooting the basketball extremely well. More importantly, rebounding. And that's where North Carolina makes a statement. Always one of the best in the country at doing so. And they've done that in this game as well.
Now rebounding state 19-14. And Corey, 28 of those 43 points for Carolina have come in the paint. Walton way off the mark on his first shot of the second half. Here comes North Carolina State. Devon Daniels with the basketball. He leads NC State with 11 points. Nice pick and roll to Funderburk to get him going.
And NC State's going to need Funderburk to be able to give them points on the offensive end, but also they're going to have to trust him defensively to keep Bacot and Sharpe off the glass. And just like that, another turnover that turns into a bucket for NC State. And just like that, a 4-0 run to start the half for the Wolfpack to make this a 6-point game. And I'm sure Roy Williams not happy to see his team turning the basketball over to start this second half.
Walton forces his way to the bucket and banks it in.
And Kervin Walton, known as a shooter, but going off the bounce, recognizing there that he feels like he can win his matchup, doing a great job putting points on the board for Carolina, especially after a rough start offensively.
Tar Heels trying to run off the long rebound. Now they set up. Same starting 5 in the second half for North Carolina.
You've got to recognize that Armando Bacot has Jericho Helms on his back. Jericho Helms is a very good basketball player, but he is undersized to have to defend the bigs for North Carolina. If you're Kervin Walton on that possession, you've got to give Bacot an opportunity to be able to get over there and get his post position, get the ball inside. If NC State's going to double team, then somebody's going to get an open one, but that was a mismatch that North Carolina missed out on.
Love gets the roll. 47-37, the lead back to 10. And to start the second half, Kevin Keith's going with a more veteran backcourt. He talked to us yesterday, Corey, about just how challenging it is for any team, but especially in this season with the odd offseason and preseason, to play freshman guards and win basketball games in the ACC.
Well, Doug, you missed the entire summer where, now college basketball programs practice in the summertime, and that's where you learn your system. And when you miss an entire summer of getting guys acclimated to the way that college basketball has to be played, where they find their spots for you, and then you also consider the fact that they've had 4 canceled games, 3 postponed games already on this season. 2 separate times NC State has had to pause basketball activities because of COVID-related issues. So it's hard to do that, especially with younger players and younger guards, because there's so much responsibility put on those guys. But Devon Daniels, who is a fifth-year senior, recognizes that responsibility. One of the reasons why he's leading this team is scoring at 15.7 points per game and knocks down a big three after 2 back-to-back baskets from North Carolina.
Bacot, 2 more for the big man from Richmond.
Yeah, Doug, when you see that, Bacot, if Helms is going to guard Bacot, he has to get the ball in every possession. Now, Funderburk, that's different. You know, there's a more of a size comparison between the two of them, but against Helms, he's got to be able to take advantage of that.
Great setup by Daniels. Now the takeaway by Beverly. He's got his second layup of the second half.
And a nice interception right there by Beverly. What would have probably been a transition bucket for North Carolina ends up being a turnover, an opportunity on the other end.
Offensive opportunity missed.
And you see Brooks looking ahead, but a great job right there. Braxton Beverly playing free safety on that one, coming up with the pick. And Coach Keats referenced, you know, turnovers for touchdowns yesterday in our conversation with him, talking about, as we see another turnover from North Carolina, is this a touchdown where he says his team needs those? Caleb Love does a great job getting back defensively, blocking the shot, and Shaquille Moore, not recognizing where he was, touches that out of bounds.
Well, it's in the DNA of NC State, especially under Kevin Keats, to turn you over, and that's a big part of why they won the first game between these two teams back in December. In Raleigh, they forced the Tar Heels into 18 turnovers. But maybe Caleb Love and R.J. Davis were more apt to turn it over a month ago than they are now.
I believe so, Doug, and I think that both these guys have grown as basketball players, you know, during that time, but nothing can beat experience. And when you have to go through these battles in the ACC and you're getting consistent minutes and opportunities to continue to do it over and over again, you find ways to be successful. We've seen that with Caleb Love, who's now taking a seat as R.J. Davis has stepped onto the court to take over the point guard responsibilities for North Carolina.
Meanwhile, Shaquille Moore, who was so good in that first game, scored 17 to help the Wolfpack beat the Tar Heels by 3. He has yet to score in this game and has played limited minutes. And the other freshman guard who's so good, Cam Hayes, has yet to score this afternoon for State. Daniels in trouble. He's tied up. And the possession arrow will stay with NC State.
And great play there by Leaky Black, just getting his hands on the basketball. Devon Daniels recognizing, but doesn't recognize Leaky Black helping. That's an easy driving kick. You've got to get that to your teammate in that possession.
Funderburk fouled by Brooks off the inbounds pass. Well, Corey, we've been talking about how tough it is for freshmen, especially in the ACC, to acclimate and get up to speed. Now, it's been a few years since you were a freshman point guard in the ACC, but if you can remember, what was the single most difficult transition from high school to the ACC for you?
For me, it was the fact that I had Brian Stith, who I needed to get the basketball to. And, of course, my senior year at Oak Hill, I had both Junior Burrow and Ben Davis, two, you know, elite-level big men to throw the basketball inside to, so I wasn't always the first option on the offensive end of the floor. But when I got to Virginia, it was get Brian Stith the ball. Everybody else ate second. Brian Stith ate first. And so that was different for me, having to recognize that there was someone else that needed opportunities, you know, before I did. And again, that was a learning curve for me, but yet it helped me become a better basketball player. And it also helped the fact that Brian Stith was so good that it was easy to get him the basketball.
Garrison Brooks, by the way, out of the game with 3 personal fouls. That bucket by R.J. Davis is first of the day. Lead back to 10 for Carolina. Daniels has it knocked away. It goes right to Funderburk, who lays it in. Bacot feeds Sharpe on the post. In spite of the double team, missed the shot long.
But what has happened, Doug, you've seen Kevin Keats have to go get both of his big guys in the game as they share the basketball well, but Armando Bacot coming up with a huge block, going all Manny Bates on Manny Bates.
And As you said, when State goes big, Bates will play the 5, Funderburk plays the 4, but it's Bacot on both ends of the floor doing it for Carolina.
And Manny Bates had 5 block shots in the first matchup between Mondo on some get back. And you know, Mama call Armando, I'ma call Armando.
Message on both ends so far today.
Well, I believe so. He probably told him to go block Manny Bates' shot as Armando Bacot gets back in transition and comes up with a huge block on Manny Bates in that possession. But Mondo off to a great start in the second half as well. 7 for 9 from the field now as North Carolina is shooting 58% from the field. Only 1 for 6 from beyond the three-point arc. But in this game, it doesn't matter how well they've shot from outside because they've gotten the basketball inside as much as they've wanted to. And Armando Bacot, Devon, Sharpe have been awesome on the interior. 14 and 12 points respectively.
And Armando had a good freshman year. I mean, he had 11 double-doubles. His numbers were pretty good, but he is so much better so far as a sophomore.
Well, and that comes with consistency. He's much more consistent this year. Armando had big games a year ago, double-doubles, as you mentioned, 23 points versus Oregon. But yet, the next game he may have 2 points or not score. This year, Roy Williams has been able to rely on him and his consistency. He's been the most consistent player for the Hills this season and leading them in scoring at under 12 points per game, but that will go up after this one, already 14 in this contest.
Cam Hayes with the basketball for NC State, the freshman from Greensboro. He finds Funderburk. A little bit strong. Sharpe picks the rebound away and hands it off to Davis. R.J. Davis behind the back. The pull-up. Nothing but net.
Under control. Beautiful play and recognition by R.J. Davis. Roy Williams wants to play fast. R.J. does a great job pushing the basketball, but more importantly, recognizing there's nothing there in the paint, but no one guarding, who could very well be the best shooter on this North Carolina team, and he knocks down the easy one.
Well, it certainly seemed like the first several weeks of this season, both Davis and Love were pressing and hunting for shots, which they don't seem to do that much anymore.
Well, R.J. Davis is a knockdown shooter. I mean, he's a scorer, so he's always going to look for his shot. But as he learns how to play the position.
But I grew up in the area of Mickey Mantle and Hank Aaron and Willie Mays, and I loved watching those guys, and Hank Aaron was just one of the best of all time.
And of course, Hammer and Hank passed away yesterday morning, and so unfortunately we've lost yet another Baseball Hall of Famer. But Hammer and Hank is somebody who you can certainly look up to regardless of the sport, right, Corey?
Absolutely. And again, I'm not as seasoned as you, so I don't remember watching Henry Aaron play, Hammer and Hank, but I do remember him as a civil rights activist. And again, one of the things that I take most from Hank Aaron is when he spoke out about if his legacy is only that he hit 755 home runs and batted .305 for his lifetime, he hasn't done a good enough job. He had to have done something that helped mankind. And to me, he definitely did that. And, I know you had an opportunity to actually meet him. I never got a chance to meet him, but I know you actually got a chance to meet the legendary Hank Aaron.
I did. It was in Cooperstown for a Hall of Fame induction, and it was about 20 years ago, and I had a chance to chat with him one-on-one for a few minutes, and like you've seen everybody say the last 2 days, there's not a classier man that you'll ever come across. And he treated everybody like gold and as though you were long friends. One of my early memories was seeing him pass Babe Ruth on Monday Night Baseball with his 715th home run, and I did get a chance to see him play one time when I was a small child. So yeah, Hammer and Hank has reached lots of people, and as you allude to, Corey, for black folks and for the black community, he meant even that much more.
Agreed. And you mentioned that hitting 715, and of course as everything went down yesterday, I'm just going back over everything I possibly can, Hank Aaron related. I had no idea that Craig Sager was the reporter that met him at home plate. Like it's his team, and then all of a sudden it's Craig Sager. Well, why is Sager right there meeting him? But he actually said after that, Craig Sager met me at home plate, and we've been friends for 41 years after that, which is amazing. Yeah,
and so when you see that the next time, look for the radio reporter in the tan trench coat. That's Craig Sager. No flashy jackets back then. 61-51, nearly 8 minutes gone here on Roy Williams Court. Hey, he told a good story about his signature on the floor that they light our full day of hoops across all our networks. And tonight on ESPN Plus, UFC 257, Conor McGregor is back squaring off against Dustin Poirier, the #2 lightweight contender in the main event. 7 years after McGregor TKO'd Poirier, they are back for the rematch. That's a look at tomorrow's and today's big lineup.
I will have to say that UFC is a lot more interesting when Conor McGregor is involved. Again, I mean, UFC is always going to be interesting, but when you have a superstar like Conor McGregor, it just raises the level of interest from everyone. It has nothing to do with his fighting. It's solely about personality. And again, I would watch just to see him walk in the ring. He has a very distinctive walk when he steps into the ring to let you know I am here and I mean business.
The only way to see that fight, ESPN Plus pay-per-view. 11:25 remaining second half. Carolina with a 12-point lead. They led by 10 at the break. Leaky Black the rebound. Here come the Tar Heels. Manny Bates with another block shot.
I tell you what, you have to know where he is at all times, because there are very few shots that you're going to get away from the outstretched arm of Manny Bates. And just like that, it starts an opportunity on the other end of the floor. And Bates unable to do it. Does a good job there defensively, keeping Devon Sharpe from being able to score in the post.
Well, Bates was a game-time decision coming off an ankle injury that cost him NC State's last game, and he returned to practice yesterday. And from the time we saw him come out on the floor today, he looked like he's been moving pretty good.
And back in the day, you know I'm not a fan of floaters, but back in the day we used to shoot what was called giant killers. And those shots were made specifically for guys like Manny Bates, where instead of trying to put that at the square, you pretty much throw that shot to the top of the backboard and then dare Manny to go get it. Now, whether you make it or not, that's different. But at least he's not embarrassing you by blasting your shot across the glass. And with no fans in the stands, us getting an opportunity to hear what he has to say to you after he smashes your shot on the glass.
Now, Ralph Sampson, to me, was that guy back in the early 80s. And you guys did not overlap at UVA, but have you ever attacked him in that manner, driven the lane and try to get that shot up over somebody as tall and long as Ralph?
Yes. Not as tall and long as Ralph, but Dikembe Mutombo. And I can remember my coach at the time during my rookie year in San Antonio, Bob Hill, actually told our team, not just me after he threw my shot into the third row of the stands, but our entire team, stop taking the ball in the paint. It was that bad. He blocked every shot.
On the reverse, another layup for Anthony Harris, who's been quite a spark off the bench this afternoon.
You know, and Anthony Harris back in the lineup and playing. And I talked to his father a number of times about, hey, have him redshirt, sit out. But with the new ruling of the NCAA where no one loses a year of eligibility this season, good to see Anthony Harris back on the court and playing well. Of course, he's clearly healthy enough to be effective, and he is helping this North Carolina team. And you see playing in short stretches, he comes back out of the game, but driving and the opportunity to finish on the other side of the basket. And right now, Anthony Harris really has been a spark plug for this North Carolina team. 5 points for him in the game against Florida State. Didn't score against Wake Forest, but he makes plays for his teammates as well. It's not only about him scoring, it's about his playmaking ability on the court.
Foul on Brooks, and that's his fourth. And those 7 points scored so far today, Corey, by Anthony Harris, part of a season-high 31 bench points up to this point for the Heels.
And normally that's something we're seeing from NC State. You know, during Kevin Keats' tenure over the 4 years at NC State, they averaged 24 points per game off the bench. So that's something that he's normally giving, his teams are normally giving. But right now, only 6 bench points for NC State in this game. So Carolina has been definitely dominant in that area, as well as scoring points in the paint.
Caleb Love end-to-end for 2 more.
I like seeing this Caleb Love. To be complete, I'm a big fan of Caleb, known Caleb for a long time, watching him play. And seeing him play really without, you know, his level of confidence early in the season was discouraging, but I like the fact that he's continued to stay at work. It's well documented how much extra work he's putting in on his own late at night, getting shots up in the gym, and you can see his confidence growing, you know, by each and every game.
That time, though, blocked by Bates, the help defender.
You know, I gotta stop talking good about Caleb. Every time I say something good about Caleb, he does something. One, you cannot square up Manny Bates and think you're going to get his shot up, okay? That does not happen. You see him, don't shoot it. Drive past him, do something different, because that is just adding to the tab of Manny Bates as he comes up with 2 blocks alone on the last 2 possessions. And we talked to Roy. Roy Williams probably telling Caleb Love the same thing. Hey, Caleb, respect what that man does. He is a shot blocker. Just like Bob Hill told us, stop taking it in there at him.
You know, we talked about the knee injuries that Harris has had to come back from and how much time away from the game he has had. Same is true for Manny Bates. He had multiple shoulder surgeries coming out of high school where he missed 985 days between games.
He missed his whole senior year, as well as, you know, redshirted his first year at NC State, missing that year. So, but came back strong as a freshman. As you saw earlier, most block shots, 83 most block shots by a freshman in NC State history, and he continues to impress now in his sophomore season.
Yeah, got the sophomore year underway with a big win at St. Louis, where he had 20 points and a career-high 8 block shots against the Billikens. Long rebound out of bounds, back to the Wolfpack. Trailing 67-55, under 8 minutes remaining at the Dean Dome.
Checking in on Baylor and Oklahoma State. The Cowpokes playing without their star freshman Cade Cunningham. Matthew Meyer there to clean up the foul. They've been going back and forth. That shot actually gave Baylor the lead, but Oklahoma State has regained the lead right now, 49-48, 13 minutes to go. Less than a half hour away until Jalen Johnson and Duke take on the Bill.
Thank you, Reese. Back in Chapel Hill, North Carolina has led pretty much the second half by double figures. With Corey Alexander, I'm Doug Sherman. And you see that Roy Williams court signature there. I mentioned it a few minutes ago. Roy said that when they asked him in 2018, first he was humbled and he was honored, but he said, I want to make sure that my autograph is legible. And he learned that from both Dean Smith, his mentor, and also Arnold Palmer. And if somebody's going to take the time, Corey, to ask you for your autograph, the least I can do is take my time and make it legible.
Why are you telling me that now? I mean, I've been signing autographs for the last, 40 years since I was 7. And now you tell me that because your mine is not very legible. I'll be completely honest. But my mother probably saved the phone book that I practiced my autograph on from the time I was 7 all the way through high school.
How come I don't have one of your autographs?
No. I don't give autographs to family. You see what I'm saying? Your family.
Gotcha.
So family doesn't get autographs. That's been a rule for, since high school.
Gotcha. Well, when I heard Coach Williams tell that story about his signature that you see there on the floor, it didn't surprise me. That sounds like it's right on point for Coach Williams.
So does that mean that his normal autograph/signature doesn't look like that?
Yeah, I don't know if he's got a gamer and he's got a private one. I don't know.
Well, right now, he's loving the ball movement from his team. Walton, who was a knockdown shooter, getting attention. And because of that, there's no help with the easy dish into Bacot, who's able to finish it off. Now, Armando Bacot with 16 points. Slowed down as far as his field goal percentage, but you see right there, Roy Williams loving what he sees from his team on the offensive end of the floor right now, and has to be loving what he's seeing defensively as well, as they've done a very good job, you know, limiting NC State. NC State right now only 4 for 13 from beyond the three-point arc. They're shooting 46.3% from the field, which isn't, you know, you won't say great defensively, but when you're shooting 55 for the game, you'll take your chances when you make more shots than your opponent.
Walker Kessler back out there for UNC on the screen and roll. Gets it blocked by Bates, tries again, and draws the foul. Here's our big Monday games on ESPN and the app. Number 13, Virginia sits atop the ACC and hosts Syracuse at 7 Eastern. Then we head to the Big 12 for the matchup of the night. Number 12, Texas Tech takes on number 14, West Virginia in Morgantown. The Hoos play Georgia Tech tonight, 8 o'clock on ACC Network. In a big game, both those two teams are the hottest in the league right now, both riding 5-game winning streaks. But your Hoos, I think, Corey, are going to be up against it on Monday as a part of Big Monday.
Oh, so you think that they're up against it on Monday versus Syracuse, but not necessarily as much, you know, tonight versus Georgia Tech? Is that what you're trying to say? Even though Georgia Tech is 5-1 in the ACC right now?
You're understanding me perfectly. I like this partnership we've got going here.
Well, I can tell you right now, you know, things are starting to settle out. What we thought would be the case in the ACC, where the University of Virginia is the best team in the conference right now. When you look at the 3 teams ranked in week 9 now, there is a possibility that your Orange may have knocked out Virginia Tech from the rankings come Monday. Virginia Tech ranked number 16 this week, but they did not have a game earlier in the week, and losing at Syracuse could have possibly knocked them out. Clemson, Florida State are ABC today, and we'll see, will Florida State be ranked next week? And Clemson, I'm not sure if they'll win. If they win, they may be able to get back into the rankings, but I doubt we see them in the rankings next week, because Florida State looking for some get back against the Tigers, who were able to beat them earlier this year.
Manny Bates, another block shot.
How many blocks does he have right now? I've got to look. I'm not sure that Manny Bates is getting the credit for every block.
We've got 7 so far. So okay, one off his career high.
He is getting them, because I'm trying to figure out why they keep shooting in front of him. I mean, I'm sure, you know, North Carolina's had 6 different leading scorers in their last 6 games. They've also had 7 different players get their shot blocked by Manny Bates in this game. When you think about it, I mean, he's not discriminating. He's blocking everybody's shot.
I meant to ask you when we were talking about Dikembe Mutombo getting your shots. I assume you got the finger wag?
No, I did not. I don't think I was at a level there to where he felt it was necessary. I mean, you know, you got a 6'1" point guard rookie coming in there trying to lay the ball up against you. Now, my boy, good friend Antonio McDice, volleyball spiked my shot into the stands. You know, the next time we played there, and that one was more so of a conversation afterwards, because that's my boy. You don't do your people like that. See, Dougie Fresh, I would not block your shot like that.
Assuming you could.
This is true.
You know what, I wanted to share something. We talked to Coach Williams earlier today. I thought there's a neat stat for Carolina. In their last 6 games, they have had 6 different high scorers, and in their last 5 games, they have had 5 different defensive players of the game. And I asked him which of those 2 he preferred, and without hesitating, Corey, he said the defense.
Well, he wants it to be a competition amongst his team as far as who wins the defensive player of the year game, play of the game. After every game, he wants them to battle and compete for that. And right now, with the 14 turnovers for North Carolina, you've seen NC State find their way back into this game. It's now a 6-point game after Braxton Beverly continues to do what he does against UNC, which is knock down threes.
Walton tries to answer and does. Back to a 9-point game.
And that's a big bucket by Walton. to keep NC State at bay just a bit, simply because you can feel some momentum building up for the Wolfpack. Is another momentum shot. Devon Daniels knocking down the three at the top of the key. And it's a two-possession game right now as we go to our under-4 timeout. NC State starting to find their way here in Chapel Hill with no fans. They're starting to feel comfortable.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball.
See MJ Walker and the Noles laying it on Clemson early.
Yeah, improved every his game, his ability to be able to get to the basket, known as a three-point shooter, but you can't turn it over against this Florida State team.
33-18 to score, 19 minutes will tip it off. Now underneath that, Matthew Hurt, second in the ACC in scoring, put on 25 pounds. Been a terrific player so far for the Blue Devils. Duke and Louisville coming up in a bit.
Now, Matthew Hurt among those many players, Corey, right now who are in the mix for possibly being first-team All-ACC. I would say there's 2 guys who are locks right now, and then there are maybe 10 others, including Matthew Hurt, who could get first-team All-League.
Well, who are the locks again?
Justin Champagnie.
Agreed.
And MJ Walker.
Wow, okay. I love MJ. I'm not going to say that he's a lock right now. I mean, so you're stepping out on a limb there more so than I am regarding a lock. I don't think that there, other than Champagnie, there probably aren't any locks to me, simply because there's so much more basketball that has to be played. But think about what Carlik Jones has done for Louisville.
Right.
I mean, you know, he's been special. Sam Hauser has been special, as has Jay Huff for Virginia. You know, it's going to be a very difficult decision this year. But MJ Walker, of course, I think he will end up being a first-teamer because Florida State will be at the top of the league. But I think that you have to say, hey, who had more impact on winning? I think that's going to be a more important factor this year. As you look at Virginia at 5-0, Florida State 4-1 in the league, most likely going to be 5-1 after today. Justin Champagnie, as you mentioned, Pittsburgh has had a revitalization under Jeff Capel, and right now playing very good basketball. But as you move forward, I mean, what about Kevin Aluma from Virginia Tech? I mean, well, it's been so many players this year in the ACC that have had success, you know, and it's going to be an interesting voting by the end of this season to try to figure out who those all-ACC teams are.
Well, after my 2 locks, I had Carlik Jones next, as you mentioned, then Kevin Aluma 4th, Quincy Guerrier, Xavier Johnson, Matthew Hurt. But then that doesn't even take into account, as you've mentioned, the UVA guys. And if they're in first place, one of those guys is going to make it. Then how about Georgia Tech, Moses Wright, Jose Alvarado? I mean, those guys are very much in the mix.
No, I agree, which is why when you said that MJ Walker and Justin Champagnie were locks, I was a bit shocked. But, I mean, Justin Champagnie is playing, in my opinion, heads over heels better than anyone in the league right now. I mean, when you consider, it seems to be every time you turn around, he's putting up like a 30-15 game. He has just been a monster all season long, and also being very efficient going about his work.
Carolina up 8, under 3 minutes remaining. Step back 3 for Love is an air ball, but there to clean it up.
Man, Ant Harris is just continuing to make winning play after winning play. And again, you know, just being in the right place at the right time gives North Carolina a 10-point lead once again off of what would have been a bad offensive possession and a shot clock violation.
And a Derek Wittenberg assist for Caleb Love. The putback by Funderburg. This is Love with the basketball out there with Harris in the backcourt. Leaky Black, who's been quiet today, coming off a sensational 8-assist, 1-turnover game. Garrison Brooks has been saddled with foul trouble most of the afternoon. When you watch North Carolina, down to 7. You were saying, Corey?
Well, if you've watched a lot of North Carolina basketball this year, you've noticed, you know, who does Roy Williams choose to end games when you consider his big men? And oftentimes it's this lineup with Garrison Brooks and Day'Ron Sharpe, but with as well as Armando Bacot has played, but also the fact that Kevin Keats has 2 bigs on the floor, I would have probably thought that you may go with Bacot and Sharpe in this one to finish the game, simply because you have the ability to rebound the basketball even better. We saw in the previous possession where Funderburg was able to go over the top of Garrison Brooks for the putback. And then that's a possession where normally Armando Bacot would have come away with that defensive rebound. So Interesting to see the lineup that Coach Williams is finishing with here in this one.
Coach Williams typically starts the season in November and December using an 11 to 12, a 13-man rotation, and by this time of the year, he's got it down to his 9 or 10, and we seem to be finding that pattern a little bit more. We've not seen Puff Johnson so far. This would be the first game he has not played. Walker Kessler has only had a couple of minutes. Andrew Platek's minutes are way down the last couple of games. So I think Roy is starting to figure out where he wants people to be and what rotations and combinations he wants over the next 6 weeks until, well, Selection Sunday is only 50 days away.
Well, Roy's had some assistance with that by the fact that Caleb Love and R.J. Davis have been playing better. And see, you know, it was Andrew Platek who made the game-winning shot versus Miami, but you also had to think about the fact that the 2 freshman point guards were not playing well. You had to have one of them on the floor, but definitely not both of them. But coming down the stretch here tonight, you have both of those guys on the floor as Funderburk continues to have an effect on this game, especially on the offensive end of the floor. Devon Daniels losing the basketball, but Funderburk not giving up on the possession. And because of that, comes up with an and one opportunity.
So that fouled Garrison Brooks out and gives DJ Funderburk 14 points. And he's got a chance to once again make it a 2-possession game.
Doug, you remember back in the first half, at the end of the half, when you asked if they would take another foul when they had fouls to give, and I said you don't want to put Garrison Brooks in a situation where he's in foul trouble at the end. Well, Garrison Brooks just fouled out of the game. And so, you know, when everybody talks about, well, you've got fouls to give, but you have to be very careful as who you want giving those fouls, because you've got your best, you know, interior defender fouling out of the game right now. Now, of course, Bacot and Sharpe have probably played the best in this game, so therefore I'm sure Roy Williams is comfortable with both those guys on the floor. But there's no one that he has more of a comfort level on the defensive end of the floor than he does with Garrison Brooks.
Well, Corey, coming up next, our full day of great college basketball games rolls on with a big game between Duke and Louisville, 4 Eastern, followed by LSU and Kentucky in the SEC. Both games are on ESPN and the app. We also saw Devon Daniels took a shot to his left cheek and required a little bit of treatment from the training staff. He stays in the game. Foul given with 1:13 remaining in regulation. Well, a lot has been made about the fact that Duke, Carolina, and Kentucky have all been to the tournament every year since '61. And these are some of the things that were going on in the world of sports and around the country back in '61. The Packers, of course, won an NFL championship. Without the Big O, the Cincinnati Bearcats won the national championship. You saw Mickey Mantle sign for $75,000, but this is to illustrate. It was Dean Smith's first year back in '61, the last time the Tar Heels were on the outside looking in at the same time. Both Duke and Kentucky missed out. Last time they were all unranked, I should say. There's so many firsts this year, Corey, between the Blue Bloods that it can be confusing, but the reality is it's just a different kind of year all the way around.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And when you look at this year and you talk about the 3 teams between Duke, North Carolina, and Kentucky, the one common denominator between them, you have young backcourts. And again, when you have young backcourts, it is difficult to win in college basketball, especially when you consider the fact that they did not have the traditional summer preparation that they would have had in a normal year. And I think that has been the biggest kicker as to why the 3 blue blood programs have not had their level of success that they normally have, simply because they've got younger players in the backcourt that are having to try to find their way on the fly without veteran players to really help them figure it out.
First time in 60 years at an AP poll without Duke, Carolina, and Kentucky. Bacot was fouled by Funderburk and will head back to the free throw line to shoot 2.
But offensive rebound on a free throw miss in a, you know, in a 10-point game, you're trying to come back and beat your rival. That is really where Kevin Keats has to have a level of disappointment with his team, and you can't blame it on the fact that they don't have the size right now, because you've got Bates as well as Funderburg on the, checking out underneath. But yet, in another opportunity right there, they come away with it, but North Carolina was close to picking up another offensive board.
True to form, Carolina has controlled the glass this afternoon. They came into this one plus 11.4 in rebound margin per game, 4th in the country, tops of the ACC. And, well, if you look at the box score right now, it's 44-30, Carolina over State.
Well, North Carolina is going to get 40 rebounds. You can put that in the book when the game starts. Everything that they do beyond 40 is pretty much a bonus. But when you look at what they've been able to do on the offensive end of the floor, Armando Bacot coming up with 17 points, Devon Sharpe 16, Caleb Love 14, R.J. Davis and Ed Harris both with 10. But the fact that you have 5 players in double figures, a balanced scoring effort for North Carolina, and coming in and shooting 54.4% versus NC State, Roy Williams has to be happy with that. And when you get to 80 points for a Roy Williams team, he is winning close to 90% of his games. So 80 is the magic number for Carolina Blue, and they've achieved that here today.
Gotten it from the starters. They've gotten it from the reserves. 38-10 in bench points in favor of North Carolina. And I don't know if Coach Williams will admit it afterward, but you really do feel much better about the prospects of this team, especially after their last 2 games, Corey.
Well, you do, and this win will put North Carolina at 5-3 in the ACC. And for all the documentation about how they're, not as good as they have been, they're not the traditional power, whatever it may be, that puts them in the upper tier of the ACC. And when you consider every win in ACC play is significant, you continue to get better and better. And I think that's something that North Carolina is doing on a daily basis. They're getting better at each and every game. You see what Caleb Love was able to do today, limiting his turnovers, shooting the ball at a much better percentage, but getting the ball inside to both Bacot as well as Devon Sharpe. North Carolina flexing his muscle on the interior. And this is the way that Roy Williams wants to play. He wants to be able to score 86 points in a game. He wants to make sure his big guys are getting touches, but also wants to make sure he has a point guard leading the way that he can rely on to knock down occasional jump shots and not turn the basketball over.
And 4 of the 5 players in double figures are freshmen, Corey. Braxton Beverly in amongst the trees, dumps it off, and Bates throws it down. And again, the assist to turnover, very good for Carolina. 18 assists, 13 turnovers, so that ratio is trending in the right direction for the Tar Heels. And they will knock off their rivals from Raleigh 86-76 to earn a split of the regular season series.
Strong performance for Roy Williams' group today, especially Armando Bacot, Devon Sharpe, Caleb Love, all getting involved in the first half early. In North Carolina undefeated at home on the season at 6-0, where Roy Williams and I both